Hello, and welcome to this special edition of Animal World Live with me, your host, Brent Smith, and we've got two very special guests talking about rosetted cats. Welcome to Animal World Live. Hello, and welcome to this very special extra bonus edition of Animal World Live with me, Brent Smith, and my very two special guests. And I'm going to ask Sam to introduce herself first.
Hi, my name's Samantha Steen. Anything else?
I'm only joking, I'm just trying to make Sam feel a bit awkward. And then over here we have Zach.
Hi there, how you going? Zachary Blake here, talking about the wild.
And of course we can hear the Aussie accent from a mile away. And American. It's the first time I've been surrounded by foreigners, but it's quite exciting. So we're going to be discussing what Sam and Zach have been up to, and we're going to go with Zach first, and I'm going to ask Zach to tell us a little bit about jaguars and what you did with jaguars.
So I've been working with jaguar for some years now, and it's a very powerful cat which is in some trouble at this stage, and there's in and around 15,000 jaguars throughout the world, specifically in Central and South America, and most of my work has been, just getting numbers on exactly how many cats are there and where they're moving and what are they doing in and around,
Okay, that's absolutely incredible. And now Sam, who's probably studied more than all of us.
Maybe.
Well, definitely more than I have. Is a bit new to the big cat game.
No, I graduated from university 2 years ago, took a gap year to travel a little bit, and now finally getting my footing back and getting back into the game. But this is my first big thing out here, first time in Africa, so it's pretty special. But yeah, it's me dipping my toes in the pool, and it's quite nice.
Now, Zach and Sam have been working for an organization that you know very well through us, but they're working through a different arm of that organization. They've been working with the Endangered Wildlife Trust with their Leopard project in a absolutely spectacular part of South Africa, the Soutpansberg Mountains. And they are actually one of the most unique areas of South Africa, and there's high levels of endemism and speciation in different plant species, but it is one of the areas where some of the biggest male leopards in Africa have ever been recorded. But we're going to get into that a little bit later. We're going to ask Zach, and I want you to send me quick questions for Zach now. And I want to know from you, Zach, this is my question to you. What countries in South America did you work in with the jaguars?
So specifically in Central America. So this is Nicaragua, Costa Rica.
Oh, yes. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. Man, just like imagine you can look on an area on a tree and there's just 50 different species of frogs and insects and reptiles and things. The biodiversity is just so high.
And were you looking at numbers or human-wildlife conflict?
Both. Both. It's a lot of, understanding how many cats are here and how are those cats interacting with the local communities as well. Because, just like here in Africa, having large predators in your backyard isn't necessarily like something most people want. So getting those messages across that, these animals are important is very, very important, for local communities.
We just got a quick question from CNAC. Yes, the EWT Leopard project has social media, etc. We will be sharing that after the show. So guys, I just ask you, please, let's keep our questions focused to Zach and Sam. Any social media stuff, please comment here, and I'll make sure all the stuff is shared after the show. CNAC would also like to have, did you work with pumas at all, or do the puma and jaguars overlap?
Oh, that's a good question. So both can technically be an apex predator. It just kind of depends on, how many jags are living in an area, how many pumas are living in the area, but when they do come together, the puma is going to back off, and it's just going to be the jaguar straight away, because physically that's a much larger animal than a puma is.
So for you guys, obviously you spend a lot of time with us, and you know about sort of lions and leopards and stuff like that. But a male jaguar is probably around 105, 110
Yeah,
kilos.
live around there. Yeah.
Yeah, so like a small lioness.
Yeah, like a big male jag is about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're quite a lot physically bigger than a puma. A big male puma would be smaller than a big male leopard, so probably about 75, 80 kilos is what I'm guessing. Yeah. Okay, so we got a question from TD Kid 1. Zach, do you know Dr. Rabinowitz?
Alan Rabinowitz, don't get me started. That guy's my hero, and he is the reason why I work in cat conservation. I love Dr. Rabinowitz, absolutely. Do I know him personally? No, but I have met him. He's a wonderful man.
And then Carla B would like to know from you, Zach, how many jaguars do you estimate there are in Central and South America? I think you answered.
Yeah, so the rough estimate is around 15,000, but those numbers are really hard to accurately get because these cats live in such remote areas of the world, and so it's hard to get, proper numbers on everyone.
And we got a couple more questions coming here from Diacito. Zach, are jaguars at risk from human encroachment?
Yeah, all species are. I mean, cats, they've got to move. They need perennial water, a lot of space, a lot of prey, a lot of food, and we need a lot of the same things. And so, you get this animal that has a huge territory. There's going to be a lot of overlap between us and them. So, yeah, definitely.
And then Sinak's got another question. I think I actually covered this question a while ago. But there's been a lot of misinformation about fires in Central Africa. In both Central Africa and Central America. But Sinak would say, are the jaguars really under threat from the fires in the Amazon? I think we're talking about a bit further north.
So this is in South America is what we're talking about. Definitely. I think I read recently that they estimated about 500 jaguars have burnt up in the fires, actually. That's a pretty scary number for a cat that's dwindling down to 15,000 individuals.
Now, I'm going to ask you guys a question. So, if there's only estimated 15,000 jaguars left in the wild, how many leopards do you think there are left in the wild? And actually, I know you guys are too smart, so I'm going to change this up. How many leopards are left in Africa? Because obviously you've got Asiatic leopards, and I'm not talking about clouded leopards, and I'm not talking about snow leopards. I'm talking about Panthers. Although, actually, that includes Indian leopards. But let's just keep it Africa specific. So that'll give you an idea about how threatened jaguars are. Now, we're going to get back to Zach in a second. We're going to jump across to Sam.
Hey.
So, Sam, this is your first trip to Africa.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, what is your sort of feeling? What's your sort of impression of your first trip to Africa?
It's crazy because, I've had a long list of places I want to go and want to visit, but Africa was always number one. It was just always like a bucket list thing for me. And, going into this field, like I couldn't think of anything better to do. And Zach said, hey, you want to go to Africa and work with leopards, which is my favorite cat. And so I was like, yeah, let's book our flights. Like, this would be amazing. But being here, it's been amazing, like going to the Soutpansberg, that being my first step into this world. Like, it's the most beautiful place. Learned a lot about the endemic species there. And everyone's been so sweet and welcoming, and it's been an amazing experience so far.
Well, Sinak, Sam answered your question. Her favorite African cat is the leopard.
Yeah.
Now, the Soutpansberg is quite a different place from a lot of the places our viewers know in South Africa. It's got a lot of interesting sort of conflicts. Between people, wildlife, agriculture.
Yes.
And you were in a reserve that I don't know much about.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about the reserve?
So we're at Madiki, and there is there's a group of people down. How far away would you say it is?
Just below the mountains.
Just below?
Yeah.
100,000, yeah. And so a lot of those people do obviously have cattle and donkeys and things, and those do make their way into the property, which is kind of a struggle because if, of course, there's any conflict with leopards, then, the community gets upset, and then you get obviously snaring and people looking for bush meat. So there is a lot of conflict with that at times, but, working with the communities and just like having those friendly relationships has really been helping.
And that reserve, is it a community reserve? Is it privately owned?
It's owned through EWT.
So Endangered Wildlife Trust actually
they
owns
own it
and manage the reserve.
Yes, they do.
Okay, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, for a lot of you, I know you guys follow a lot of the social media stuff. as I said, the Soutpansberg is quite famous for some of the biggest leopards in Africa. And, well, with different data from Endangered Wildlife Trust and Panthers, etc., it is one of the areas where leopard numbers have actually decreased heavily in the last 20 years, from being a very highly populated leopard zone to a very low populated leopard zone. Well, not low, but not nearly what it was. And I'm assuming that the EWT project is just to monitor that. And what happens is, I'm going to get myself into trouble again tonight, but that's normal. So in that area, there is a lot of hunting, or there was a lot of hunting previously. Now, the leopard quotas and stuff in South Africa have changed recently, and obviously because it's an area that's very famous for very large, big male cats, it was very attractive to the hunting industry. And there's been lots of slightly offsides. I'm trying to think about how to say this in a nice way. Goings on in those areas. But we're going to ask Zach to tell us more about the population and the demographic and whatnot that's happening there at the moment in that reserve. How big is that reserve actually first?
So it's about 7,000 hectares.
So it's just under 15,000 acres.
Yeah, correct.
So if you want to say how many leopards are in your study area.
So generally, no, it's fine. I was like, it's this big. No. So it's estimated there's somewhere around like one leopard for every like 6 to 8 kilometers or so. There are still some big cats that live there. I saw some pretty big tricks. They're about yay big. So for you leopard fanatics out there, that's pretty large, you know. But you know, we did a lot of camera trap work out there, and we actually didn't see a single leopard on any of our cameras, you know, and so that just kind of shows you how difficult they are to find nowadays, you know.
So My Music 11 would like to know if you can change a poacher's mindset, you are helping the cat population. So with poachers are generally not targeting leopards as a rule, although from a traditional point of view and a church point of view, leopard skins are quite valuable. What often happens with leopards and snares is they actually bycatch for bushmeat. Okay, so that's amazing. You didn't see a single leopard in how many months?
Almost 2.
In 2 months.
Yeah.
Heard them, saw signs of them.
It's almost like they were teasing me. Just tracks everywhere, you're hearing them everywhere, but not a single shot. No.
Well, I think Painted Dog TV needs to come up there with you,
I think so.
and bring some of my tracker friends with us.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And we can go find them on foot.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Okay, let's have a look here. Okay, so, man, that's incredible. Now, you got to realize, you've all watched us track leopards and find leopards on foot like this in the Sabi Sands. This is a completely different ecosystem. It is 1,000 times harder to find leopards in the Soutpansberg. You're dealing with cliffs, mountains, hard ground. It's much, much harder to track them. And it is very interesting because, as you said, and as you know from listening to me natter on constantly, is that your leopard territory size completely depends on the area you are, availability of water, etc., availability of prey species. And do you guys have an idea what your average home range is for a male or female in the Soutpansberg?
Yeah, so the male's range is going to be much larger. I would estimate somewhere in between like 15, 20 kilometers for a male, and female is going to be much smaller.
So do you have it? Sorry, I missed that. I was reading questions.
No, it was like 15, 20k for a male.
Square kilometers.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So now take that. That's 15,000 to 20,000 hectares. So 30 roughly to just under 45,000 acres. Now, if you take a leopard from the Sabi Sands, even in a small area in the Sabi Sands, your leopards that are on the Sabi and Sand River, the male leopards' territories are under 1,000 hectares. Because there's high availability of females and high availability of prey. And the females' territories in the core best territories in the Sabi Sands are less than 500 hectares.
So to put it in perspective, it's like finding a needle in a haystack and then finding that same needle in another haystack a little bit.
Exactly.
But I mean, also with finding them, they're with the conflict with people there, they're persecuted all the time. So they're much less, they don't want to be around us because they have so many issues with others.
Now, R.L.R. Moore's got a great sort of comment rather than a question here. I wonder if cats in areas where they're at risk from human behaviors become better at avoiding humans.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just we're watching a documentary, was it? And it was talking about a tigress that was collared, and she learned to sit in a bush and hide under a bush during the day to avoid farmers threatening to hurt her, and then she'd move at night. So she avoided people, even if she was super close, 50 meters away, but she'd sit in that bush and wait till nightfall just to avoid people.
Now, from my personal experience with tracking leopards that have been under pressure from humans before, the only time I see them is literally when I nearly stand on them. So from under 2 meters. So literally the bush starts going at you, and then you found the leopard. Gets the heart rate up a little bit. Wait, I saw KB7 gets leave the porcupine.
She's a large dog.
Jack Russell that thinks she's a leopard. And normally it's a porcupine or a civet she's barking at. Sorry, KB7 get. Would like to know from Zach, how far into the US have jaguars been seen now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's estimated somewhere around 5 to 6 individual cats that live in the United States. I think there are 2 in Arizona, 2 in New Mexico, and maybe 1 floating around Texas. And so a lot of these cats are moving up from Mexico over the border into the US, and they're living in and around the mountains and things there.
Now, do you think that the human population in Mexico, in the area they're coming from, is quite big, and they're moving into an area of the US where the population is less? Is that what's forcing them, or has the population become saturated in Mexico?
Right.
That there's actually no more space for them to spread before hitting people, so they're coming north?
Right. Well, so jaguar actually used to range as far north as almost the top of California, right? So historically speaking, they used to live there. So Central America has always been a bridge for the cats between South America and North America there. So really what it is cats just migrating through their natural range, and then us kind of impeding their pathway, because they were all hunted out a long time ago in the States.
No, it's quite interesting, and we've seen in the States in particular, there's been a great sort of resurgence of big cats. Even with mountain lions being seen in areas they haven't been seen, they've been shot out from. So it is good to know. Well, it's a good thing. However, it is causing some stress.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, I mean, a jaguar can just, trot up to a farm and, have 3 cows, eat one, and then leave,
Exactly. But fortunately, and stuff like this is helping create awareness. And in the Americas, it's a bit different. Well, in South America, you're looking at a lot of the similar problems you face in Africa in terms of impoverished communities competing with wildlife. In the US, it's slightly different, and we can only hope through education that people are. Oh, I lost a cow.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd much rather have a jaguar on my ranch than lose a cow.
Yeah.
And lose a cow.
Unfortunately, from what I've seen with locals that have something like a mountain lion take out one of their animals, it's usually the person's fault. They don't house them properly at night, or they're not taking proper precautions. But one thing I've noticed, it's not a poverty thing, but it's more of an inconvenience thing. And that drives me absolutely up the wall, because you can just make those few extra efforts and live harmoniously with these predators. But, again, people and their inconveniences. But hopefully things will change again with education.
I've got a few comments here. Guys, we're definitely not going to dive into Trump and his wall. A bit too much for this conversation this evening. It would definitely stop the natural migration of animals.
Yes.
Which is something that I don't think Donald has ever considered. Yes, I'm not going to go into Trump and politics tonight. I'm already in enough trouble. Okay, yes, Vicky. I actually have a friend who's working on the Panther Florida Panther Conservation. Someone actually sent me a very interesting message, slightly off topic, about the Florida Panthers possibly having white muscle disease, which we saw in lions a couple of years ago during the drought. I say it's unlikely. Thank you, Kruger Cougar. And wants to know, is fencing an issue? Now, I'm going to answer myself, and then I'm going to let Zach and Sam answer as well, and I'll get back to the Florida Panthers. Actually, I think we might have to do another show on that. We'll get my friend next time she's out here. She's working quite closely with the Florida Panthers at the moment. Now, fencing is not an issue in my experience for leopards. Leopards don't care about fence. They either go over it or they go under it. Hyenas, leopards, wild dogs are three animals that a fence struggles to keep in. And I don't know about jaguars and stuff, and Zach can...
You know, like that's all these cats are so highly adaptable. I mean, leopards here, jaguar in South America, fencing isn't a huge issue for them either. They either, like Brent said, go over or under fences.
I've never seen a leopard have a trouble with the fence.
No, they're like, oh, there's a thing in my way, and straight over.
I will find a way. Hyenas and wild dogs do the same thing. And I'm sure, Sam, you must have seen the reserve was fenced or whatnot. The leopards range out of the fences all the time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then even just going through and next to other farms where they have, the hot wire on top and bottom, and it keeps all these other species in. And unfortunately, like, they're mostly trying to keep leopards out of their property because they're hunting or this or that, and they get right through it. But unfortunately, that does cause a lot of problems for other species like pangolin, I'm sure you're aware of. And
those hot low wires.
Yeah,
are very
absolutely.
bad for
Yeah, it's
pangolin.
horrible. And, it doesn't stop them. It doesn't stop the leopard from getting around. So it's just silly.
Hey guys, we are getting towards the end, so I'm going to take 5 more questions or comments. And the first one's going to be from White Rhino CBO. And this is for, well, I suppose both of you, because I have absolutely no idea. Does the US government provide any incentives to ranchers to protect endangered species like jaguars or mountain lions on their properties rather than shooting them?
I think it depends on
State.
what
It's
state you
state,
live in.
absolutely.
It's definitely a state-to-state basis. Some states do, some states don't. I would argue most states don't, unfortunately.
Yeah. California, where we're from, it's a little bit more progressive in that. Usually you have to get like a permit. You have to prove that like a mountain lion.
Problem animal.
Yeah.
It's eating,
You have to prove it. You have to get a permit. You have to go through all these steps, and it's illegal to hunt them there. Whereas you go to another state, and it's fine to hunt them.
And
So
even to get the permit, like the animal, you have to physically see the cat on your livestock or on your pet, and that's where that lives, So if you think a leopard took a mountain lion took a sheep, then that's not good enough to get a permit,
Okay, so I actually saw. So Sinak says to Brent, is there a big problem with leopards entering people's homes? No. There was one leopard in the last 2 years that was found in a lady's laundry room, but that is unusual, and it was a young leopard that had run across a highway and obviously got a fright. And it was caught and removed quite safely somewhere else. So no, generally leopards do not enter our homes here in South Africa. We do have the occasional elephant in the main street. No, I'm joking. We don't. So leopards entering our houses are not a big problem. Okay. From Zoe Dawn, do you guys know anything about, which I know is a cat, I'm not sure about its pronunciation, a jaguarundi?
Yes, yeah, cute little guy. Yeah, they're great. I love a jaguarundi. So jaguarundi is a small little cat, about yay big. They're like
It's not a big cat.
No, they're very small. No, and they're like kind of a grey slate color. They look like a cross small mountain lion, and actually they are more closely related to mountain lions or pumas or whatever you'd like to call them. It's an animal that has about 80 different names. The puma, mountain lion, catamount.
Thank you, chinchilla.
Deer tiger is my favorite.
What, deer tiger?
haven't heard that
Deer
one.
tiger.
Oh, deer tiger. So we're talking about small cats. A serval.
Yeah, right.
And Afrikaans. You've heard Afrikaans. Do you know what the Afrikaans name for a serval is?
No, I don't.
No. Brian, do you know? Wiem? In my ear? No, serval. No, I know what the name is. I'm only teasing them. It's called a dierboskat. And you know what that means?
No.
It's a tiger bush cat.
That's amazing. I love it. Speaking of small cats, we actually just a couple of days ago we saw a small family of caracal.
Oh my
That's
god, it
wonderful.
was
Broad
two
daylight.
kittens. It was
Oh.
amazing.
Yeah, female, 2 kittens.
Did you guys
It was
get any
amazing.
pictures?
No,
It was
so
so
quick.
quick.
It was so quick, you know.
Yeah, that was special.
That is incredible. Wait, I saw a question, now I've lost it. Of course I have. So this is more of a comment, and My Music 11, all three of us will go look into it. Did you know there are people who used to be poachers and now working for conservation in the field of snow leopards?
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. Brent, Zach and Samantha. And that's from My Music. Yes, that is amazing. And quite a lot of conservation projects throughout Africa and Asia and America use ex-poachers, because there's no one better at finding an animal than someone who can track.
And I think by extension, probably one of the best conservation models out there are ones that involve the local community to take ownership of their own wildlife instead of outside sources telling them what to do.
And it is a big, and a lot of you heard me rant about how Africans are told how to look after their animals by Europeans and, no offense, Americans.
I'm not offended.
And if you go look at Europe, there's only 15,000 hectares of intact temperate forest left in Poland, in the whole of old world Europe. And we get all the people marching up and down their streets in London, and they actually have no clue the complications of what it takes to save animals and people. And everyone's very quick to jump out, shoot the poacher, shoot the person. And my personal belief is if you're shooting a person, you've already lost the battle. You should be enabling the person to make a difference and benefit off the wildlife around them. Otherwise, it's always going to be a losing battle.
But also, it's usually not, people are poaching because there's a demand for these things. And it's usually other countries, other cultures that want these things from these animals. So, of course, usually those poachers are in poverty. They're trying to feed their family. And even though it's not an agreeable means of making money to other people, it's really the demand that we have to worry about and not so much the supply. Because once the demand's gone, there's no supply. So it's really educating other communities, other cultures, other countries to not purchase.
Thank you, Nunya. It's a complicated and a very, very complex situation that a lot of people try to put a simple solution to. And my personal feeling is that you mustn't attack a problem from one place. You must have multiple solutions, and hopefully together we can find the correct solution. As Sinek says here, it's poverty. Now, whether people be poaching rhinos or elephants or lions or leopards, everyone sitting here has a house to live in and food for their children and medical care. When you live in a rural community in northern Mozambique and you earn less than $500 a year, most people actually earn about $250 a year, the opportunity to go shoot a rhino or an elephant or whatnot and end up with $2,000-$3,000, which is more money than you can imagine. It's very easy to sit in our armchairs and judge when we've got food on our table, which is something I'd like people to remember. Okay, less serious. Let's end this off on a happy note. So no more poaching questions. What? Let's move along. Okay, so just going to say a very big thank you to having Zach and Sam. And hopefully they're going to come visit us again. Or maybe we can come visit them on their next adventure. It'll be very exciting. And we will be putting out links to Zach and Sam's social media so you can follow their adventures as they move on from here. What are your next adventures, guys? There's a great question to end.
That's a good question. Well, here in a couple of months I'm heading to Virachey National Park in Cambodia.
Oh, actually, I did know that.
Yes,
I'm an idiot.
yes. So we're looking for signs that Indo-Chinese tigers still exist there, because they were all hunted out some 40, 50 years ago. And so we're just looking for signs that they're around. And also, additionally, the last wild population of elephants in Cambodia as well while we're there.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
I know, right?
How long are you guys there for?
Oh, not me. I'm not going.
Oh, you're not going?
No.
Oh, dear.
He told me about how extreme it's going to be, and I'm like, Yeah, I might sit this one out.
After Congo Gabon, I mean, I think it's mild.
Right, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mild.
Yeah, about 2 weeks that one.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Right,
Okay. If you were there for 2 months, then we would make a plan to come visit.
Funding for longer.
Yes, yes, and with a lot of these things, the problem is funding. And as I say, keep a lookout on all the Painted Dog social medias. We do make sure we sponsor with responsible scientists and conservation organizations who do need your help. So there will be lots more information coming. But for now, it's been great. It's been grand. It's been absolutely bloody fantastic. Thank you, Zach.
Happy to be
Thank
here.
you, Sam.
Thank you for
And
having us.
we'll see you actually tomorrow again for another episode of Animal World Live. Good night.